No, you can sit here. She's live, so you gotta watch what you say.
Oh, no, yeah, we're good. Ain't nothing, nobody on the other side of the camera gonna say. Thank you. I forgot I had it up.
I didn't take 3 weeks ago, but yeah, he was curious about it.
There's a store called Bell, B-E-L-K, and it reminded me a lot of that. You're not around here. There's all of these ones like Nick and Blair. When I was there, I well, now they've got straight leaves, helmets.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
can,
just,
a lot of,
you know, it's like some representative police houses where the grass is green. And, yeah, and, you know, they're, you know, it's just, it's like they're just, it was smart to get them to sit there.
What's that?
Squeeze her in here.
All right.
You go in there and how are you?
animal control is not big enough for something like this. Not even this many people. That big table in there? I don't think all these people would fit in that room.
There was a lady.
She's awake.
Their brand, you know, it's like 11 days. And it's really gonna get us to the close. I see one of them comes. Am I gonna go right and never mind. I have to like you know, I know we're on the then you got this woman
Finally got this.
So it's 20 seconds.
Mark, that stuff you saw when you were 9, that was my scarecrow
I
stuff.
thought it looked like all Halloween stuff.
And now I'm bringing Halloween stuff
Okay,
out.
so you went from scarecrow to Halloween.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a distinction on those.
Oh, yeah.
Dual purpose those?
Yeah. I had so much stuff that I have to get switching. Everything else is
I got an attic full of parts.
I have a basement, 2 garages, and my little secret storage unit. I had that storage unit for about 2 years.
Not secret now, I saw it.
Yeah, oh no, the girls, they're like, I'm like, guys, you can be careful with all this stuff. This is going to be here someday. Real crap. Yeah.
I didn't buy it.
I'm trying.
Boy's gotta be first. That was always the big thing.
Room up there. You saved this spot.
All right, thank
All right, we're going to call this meeting to order. Thank you very much for being here. Martha, would you be so kind as to take the minutes, please? Everyone's here except Mr. McCormick. And when you get ready, if there's an update on insurance, that's the first thing on the agenda.
Yeah, the update on insurance. Next week, on October 26th, there is a CIRMA quarterly meeting. CIRMA is the County Insurance Risk Management Association. It is the cooperative of which we are a part of. I will be going up to that meeting to get the reports, see what's going on there. Yesterday, I had lunch with Travis and Kate from Danzig. The state's attorney joined us as the conversation was geared towards the statutory requirement or their lack of bidding out the health insurance. We are part of a captive on the health insurance side, Pareto. I think there's about 3,000 entities in that captive across the country. And as they explain the captive to us, how it works, the reinsurance, the pharmacy program, etc. Rob's thought then was that the captive is an asset. The county has paid into that the first 2 years that we were in it, which came to, I think it was about 46,000 and some change, I think 46,662. And then we wrote interest on that, potential dividend in there, depending on how the captive as a whole performs. Travis did say that the county has an excellent year going now. It runs 1-1 to 1-1. We've got a very good year going. So per that conversation, Rob believed that the captive is an asset, I mean, literally an asset to the county. We have money invested in it. It's money that technically belongs to the county. So he said, based on what he heard yesterday, he did not believe that we have to bid that out. The captive bids out the reinsurance to one of 3 companies they use on an annual basis. And then the pharmacy, Pareto only uses one of 3 pharmacy companies. And if we want Danzig to bid that out, we would start that process around June or July. Because if we do not give the captive a pharmacy company that at least 90 days notice that we may leave, and then we leave within that 90 days, we lose our rebate potential. So when employees are on name brand drugs, we get an initial portion of that payment back then, and then at the end of the year it trues up and we get the rest of the full rebate back. And if we leave one of the 3 pharmacy companies that they work with, then we risk losing that. So that's a 1-1 contract. If we so choose to have Danzig shop that next year, we would start that process around June. But Rob did not believe that statutorily we were required to bid it out because of the way it's set up. It is an asset, but he asked to have a little bit of time to read the bid statute, and then he will put something in writing to us.
Awesome. So we're...
And the health and on the property casualty side with CIRMA, again, that is a cooperative, and the way that is written, it is not statutorily required to be bid either. And we've been in that program, I want to say since 2017, but we have the potential for dividend kickback on that one as well, based on the way the entire program works. There's counties in that. They've started to open it up to municipalities. The board of that program gets to decide if New groups can come in or not come in based on their loss experience. But if you advise them that you are bidding out, you basically are telling them you're pulling out of the program and they don't have to let you back in. Julie and I went to a meeting in, it was either March or April, I think it was. And the year that they just closed out all the claims with tails, you know, auto liability, general liability, all of that. The year that they just closed and gave those dividend checks out to the counties that were participating at that time is the year right prior to when we got in. So we are on the cusp of dividend rewards on that. So everything is good to go from the insurance side as far as I know.
With that, with like the dividends, is there anything like statutorily that it has to go back to? Like, does it have to stay within the healthcare part?
That I haven't looked into because I know we keep that account that we use to pay, because the health insurance, the county covers the first $30,000 for any single employee. And then in 22 to 23, 681,000 and some odd change of the entire group. So if I'm an county employee, I have a claim, a medical claim, as soon as it crosses over that 30,000 threshold, Pareto pays up until it hits $1 million. And then that's why we have the reinsurance, which Pareto purchases for us.
Right.
If the whole group collectively hits that 681,000 and some odd dollar mark, then Pareto covers from there to $1 million, and then the reinsurers cover from there up.
Oh, I don't know if there'd be a way to find out, like if we make dividends or whatever on that, if it can be rolled over into family plans, where it stays in that.
When you talk about the county providing coverage for families, I think there'd have to be some research statutorily as to whether or not we can use taxpayer dollars to do that. I'm not saying we can't,
Well,
but
that's what I'm saying, it's if it's dividends, if it's money made off that money, if it could be rolled over.
yeah, and this is just a pure assumption at this point, we'd have to talk to the treasurer, but that money then goes back, we have a specific account out of which we pay claims.
Right.
And so I'm just making the assumption that if we get dividend payback, that we would put it in that account, because then, I mean, we only draw, if you will, to put back into that account when it dips below, I believe it's 300,000. But I don't know statutorily if the county can ask taxpayers to provide insurance coverage
For families.
and I'd have to check and see if Pareto would allow that either. Because you're really, you're changing the makeup of the program. I mean, you're just getting
Right,
into it.
if we don't ask the question, then we never get.
No, that's fine. I mean, I'll ask.
Yeah, I would appreciate an answer to that question too. Any other questions on insurance? Got anything else? Julie, you got anything?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So at this time, we're not seeing any need for an action there.
Nope, that was just an update.
Okay. We will move on to item number 3. Julie has done some research on the potential blocking of video streaming services from county Wi-Fi. And Julie, you got an email.
Yes, well, from the last meeting, we were going to include Judge Katie Harlow in some of this discussion because she's part of how this all started, or, you know, part of the conversation. But she just had some, when I mentioned to her about the potential blocking of the Wi-Fi services in the courthouse, she had pretty significant questions, which I emailed you guys about. So I think at this time, we probably ought to just table that and move on of the Wi-Fi anyway. Is that what you're telling me?
Address that,
Yeah,
because that's what I came out of that letter for today.
Somebody, oh.
I'd like to also address that too.
Oh, okay. issue with respect to the termination of Wi-Fi interferes with the operations of the court. I did speak with Judge Harlow about this, and Judge Harlow and myself would like to meet with the chairman of the county board as well as with Mr. Woods and the head of this committee to address a practical response. But there's a difference between shutting down the Wi-Fi and shutting down the streaming services that are not compatible with government. So the streaming services, and I'm sure that Mr. Woods can explain whatever the detail is, but I think he has the technical ability that if you wanted to shut off Netflix and Hulu and some of these things that are not consistent with the operations of government here, that can be accomplished with a couple of his keystrokes. You're that good, right?
It's a little more advanced than that, but yeah. It can be done, yeah.
And so when this proposal or this discussion came out, and I think the agenda came out with respect to that topic, it caused concern by the court and myself. One of the things that we've been working on is having into a paperless format to go into the courtroom, and it incorporates something called GIMS as a software that's used by the court, the public defender, the state's attorney, and the circuit court clerk, all of which are integrated, and both the public defender and the state's attorney have to have Wi-Fi in that courtroom to make that happen. So that's shutting down the Wi-Fi is a no can do, and it would actually force me to seek injunctive relief in court with the court, and it's just something it's too far over the tips of the skis, if you will. But there's practical things that you can do, and what we wanted to do is have a discussion, with you, so the state's attorney, the court, and the public defender could meet with at least some of your representatives, so we don't violate the Open Meetings Act, but at the same point in time, address and make clear to you what our respective concern is, and then it can be implemented, and then it could also be advanced to the county board in an efficient manner. I don't know how often you all meet, but as it was posited in the agenda, that was something that we were concerned about up on the third floor. So, and I wish I could say that, we had a uniform agreement. I also know that probation uses wireless for things that would clearly say are legitimate purposes. And the most important of all those things is our Zoom stuff, because sometimes we have to send a lawyer into one of the jury deliberation room or into the law library to Zoom with a client who is, say, detained in the Department of Corrections or is in a jail, and they need to have a private conversation without the knowledge of the state or the court. And so that can only be accomplished with Wi-Fi services being active. And if it has to rely upon cell use, so that reception isn't very good. So it would present a big issue. And I'm asking as the state's attorney that of all the things that you do, let us have that discussion. We can come to a reasonable resolution with Mr. Wood, and hopefully that will get us to the finish line. It could be advanced to the county board at its next setting, so that you can accomplish the objectives that you want to accomplish and not interfere with the operations of the government.
Yeah,
Mr.
so
Hamlin, are you running the meeting or is Jeremy running the meeting?
Mr. Cole, I asked you before not to gratuitously, excuse me, I asked for permission to address this board, and I did. And I've never interrupted you, and I would expect that you could extend to me the same courtesy
Mr. Cole.
without interrupting me.
So
now,
Mr. Cole!
Jake, it is not public body comment.
Mr. Cole!
Well, he's in public body comment.
Mr. Cole, could I have
He
your
was
attention,
called on by the
please?
chairman.
Pardon?
He was called on by the
I didn't
chairman.
see the chairman calling.
Mr. Cole,
Did you call him?
I recognized the state's attorney as our legal counsel. He had the floor, you did not.
You will have the opportunity to speak, as will
You're the
everyone
only
here.
one in here that can have the floor, is that correct?
Who I call on, who I recognize, will have the floor.
Okay,
This is the first warning being issued
okay.
for being disruptive in an open public meeting. It sounds to me like the board chairman, myself, yourself, Mr. Woods, the judge, may need to have this meeting that's been suggested.
I would believe that that would be in the best interest of everybody and eliminate the conjecture and speculation that would otherwise flow from making a knee-jerk decision or advancing something at this point in time.
I agree completely. This has been on our agenda for 3 consecutive months. It can wait. It can wait until we can have that meeting. Absolutely. So I think the committee can move forward without taking action on this evening. Unless, does anyone, Cody, you have a question?
I would like to hear what Mr. Woods, he said he wanted to say something.
Mr. Woods, you have the floor.
I've talked to all of the department heads, and every department in here uses wireless. The clerk's office has outside vendors come in to do land records research, and they have to use the Wi-Fi to do that because we do not allow them to plug into the network. That's for security reasons, because you don't know what's on that computer. So every department in here uses Wi-Fi in some form or another, the sheriff's office as well. So to turn off the video streaming is not simply a matter of putting a check mark in the box. It's much more, there's a lot more configuration that has to be done in firewalls and switches and wireless to be able to do that. So we need to have a discussion.
Mm-hmm.
I know you've sent emails, it sounds like you sent emails. I'd like to know how you have conversations about what happens in the network here without the IT person being involved. And this happens all the time.
Mm.
There's meetings held. We have a contract with the county to manage the network. We want to be involved in those meetings because you guys come up with stuff, and there's other people come up with stuff, we want to do this. It's not possible to do. And there's a right way and a wrong way to do things. It's not just simply a matter of, putting a check mark in a box.
Right.
We're doing things, but we're excluded, pretty much exclusively from any meeting that happens unless we call it.
I try to include you on these matters. That's why we asked you in last time too. So,
But I mean, there's other stuff that has to happen in the courthouse in a couple of offices before I could even think about blocking video streaming.
one thing, the sheriff did send me an email, and he said that there are iPads for the inmates,
Yeah.
and that allows them to have access to law library. There were several things he listed. I don't have them all in front of me. That was I think maybe the main one. But those are paid for by the inmates paying for video streaming services.
And
so,
texting different,
yeah, so that kind of.
That's a special program that they have over there that allows the inmates to be able to do that. They have to pay for that.
Okay.
So it is through yes, they use the county wireless, but it's through a different website rather than through the county's website.
Okay. All right, so it sounds to me like the persons mentioned need to have this meeting, and then I'll bring something back to this committee from that meeting. And so if there's nothing further on this agenda item, we could move on.
Dave, do you want me to send you a copy of that email from Amanda?
Yes, please.
It
So I
just
can
had
see what it says.
specifically her concerns in
Yeah.
it, so I'll
And
just
we've talked
forward
about,
it.
I'm sure they're probably all the
Yeah.
same things we've talked about before, but I just like to know what's going on so that I can address it.
The gist of it was that she, like Mr. Hanlon said, wanted to have a meeting with,
Oh, it would
certain
cripple the court system completely
Yes.
if we was to turn off the Wi-Fi, as it would the whole entire courthouse, because like I said, every department uses Wi-Fi in some form or another.
okay, I'll send you a copy of that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, item 4 is to recommend that the full board solicit bids for a forensic audit of the state's attorney's office due to the resignation of the previous state's attorney, and that is legally required by 55 ILCS 5/6-31005.
Could you read that a bit slower, please?
55 ILCS 5/6-31005. 31005. And I have that here. It's titled Funds Managed by County Officials. In addition to any other audit required by this division, the county board shall cause an audit to be made of all funds and accounts under the management or control of a county official as soon as possible after such official leaves office for any reason. The audit shall be filed with the county board not later than 180 days after the official leaves office. The audit shall be performed and the audit report shall be prepared and filed with the chairman of the county board by an auditor. We have run into this statute before, and we are past that deadline, obviously, but this is legally required, and I will make the motion that we.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Are we talking, because there's a big difference between a forensic audit and an audit. So is it,
The statute just says an audit. It doesn't say forensic. We could amend to make that, if we wanted to make it a forensic audit, that will, I'm almost certain, greatly increase the cost and probably the time involved. But if we want to, we can make that recommendation as well.
Mr. Hamlin, based on the statute, would you have a recommendation regarding a standard audit or a forensic audit? Or do you know
Well,
what the norm would be?
Those things in which the state's attorney controls are generally those things that where there isn't control over actual money. There's the primary area in which the state's attorney has a legal responsibility associated with things that are economic or tax sales. Most of that flows through the treasurer's office, so I don't know what advantage you would get from a forensic audit. You know, when I leave office, you can do all the forensic auditing you want, but with respect to the period of time in which Ms. Cronky held office, I do not believe, based upon everything that I know, that there would be any significant value for expending the funds for a forensic audit.
Is that sufficient?
Yeah, I couldn't see spending the money on a forensic audit if there was no need, so.
I will make the motion that this committee recommend that the full board solicit bids for said audit.
Do you have to wait till it's seconded, or can I ask a quick question?
Can I get a second first?
Second.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Do we have to solicit bids if we already have an auditor? Is it Benford our auditor?
I was unsure about that, so I wanted to allow for all possibilities. If we already have an auditor, and auditing is a professional service, so it doesn't need to be bid out. So if we already have an auditor for the annual audit, we could ask them if they would be willing to audit the state's attorney's office for the time, that 26-month period of time.
I think this came up with the previous audit that we did, maybe in '21. But I remember Barb asking why can't, like, Whitfly just, because that's who we had employed at the time. And I think at that time we voted to go ahead and let our current auditor do whatever audit needed to be done.
I believe that's so, yes.
Well, and I think they have they've established the relationship. They're working on the current audit, so they would have the relationship with the various department heads and what's needed, so.
I think we did that, and did we ever get the results from that audit? Has that,
I didn't see them.
that was on the sheriff's department when we had,
I don't know if that audit ever started.
It's when we had the two sheriffs that
Yeah.
had a pretty quick turnover.
I mean, we voted, or the board voted to do that. I'm not sure that it ever
Ever
took off.
Ever getting done.
Okay, so do we want to amend the motion to?
I would make the motion to amend to just approach our current audit firm
I'll
for
second that.
what additional costs might be necessary to perform the state's attorney standard audit.
I'll second that. Have any discussion on the amendment? Whenever you get caught up there. All in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We'll return to the now amended motion that we ask the current auditor, which is Binford and Brown, to conduct an audit on that 26-month period of the state's attorney's office. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 5, discussion and vote to finalize the Sheriff's Department forensic audit to discern overpayment and underpayment amounts for employees. John Vanderberg conducted a forensic audit of the Sheriff's Department's payroll. It covered approximately 5 years, and it showed about $750,000 worth of error, some overpayments, some underpayments. I spoke with the treasurer yesterday, and the elements that could come after us for those problems are Social Security, Medicare, IMRF, the Union, Department of Revenue, entities like that. And so far, she didn't know of anyone who is coming after us for anything, but I think they have about a decade to do so, if I remember right. And I also believe the auditor said if we wanted to address the findings of the audit and get as close as we can to making everyone whole, the legal teams should sit down and decide what they want to look at and what they don't. And so that gave me the idea that perhaps we want the state's attorney to look into this, because it's going to involve legal matters. And so I think we should make a recommendation to the full board that addressing the findings of that audit be put in the hands of legal counsel, state's attorney.
The last time this was discussed, the previous state's attorney, her plan was going to be, because she wanted us to defer it out to someone who was pretty well versed in labor law, civil law, things like that. Her plan was to, I don't know, I want to make sure I use the right word, appoint a special counsel to address this, and they were going to get, I think she had 3 different ones in mind, and it never came to fruition. So I think that even then it was recognized how important it is to let legal counsel steer the vehicle.
If we're looking for legal counsel that's well versed in contract and labor law, I don't think we have to look too far.
Yeah.
So, do we have a motion
I'll make a motion.
to?
Change it to the state's attorney taking care of.
To recommend to the full board that we put this in the hands of the state's attorney?
Yeah.
Okay. I will second that. Any further discussion? Let me know when you get caught up. All right, any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, item 6, discussion and vote on recommendation to full board to conduct forensic audit on the diet team. Do you have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
You have a motion? I will second the motion.
And what are we specifically looking at? I mean, I just want to make sure, like Martha said, is it something we need a forensic, or will a regular audit do, or what?
It can be amended to take the forensic part out, or we can leave it in. I did speak to the state's attorney, and I asked him if the resignation of the diet team commander puts into effect 55 ILCS 5/6-31005. And he said that the dive team commander would have been a de facto department head. And so with the vacancy, it triggers the statute. So for at least an audit. I will say there were also accusations of theft made at last Thursday's board meeting. And I want to get to the bottom of that. I think that's an important point to iron out. And the numbers won't lie, and an audit will help us discern the truth there.
How many accounts do they have that they would be looking at?
That I do not have.
Is it just, do they just have the one account?
See, I don't know, because,
Well, that's what I'm thinking, we don't know like what all is out there.
yeah, see, there's the unless I'm mistaken, there's the nonprofit bank account that isn't registered with the appropriate state agency.
Is that county funds? I mean, is that an account that the county oversees?
I don't believe so, but I'm not sure if it should. I think it probably should. I think it should.
With the county dive team being an entity of the county, any funds taken in are technically to go back. They're county funds, so I believe it's technically go back to the
Yeah.
county. And I think one of the differences between what Mr. Hanlon said about the state's attorney, and they really don't have funds in their office managing, I do believe that the dive team commander was managing more funds. So I think to go the forensic route and understand where those funds are, and with the allegations of theft
Yeah.
made last week, I just think it makes sense to do that.
Yeah. I wouldn't think, with the amount of money, I wouldn't think a forensic audit would be, it's not like for doing a forensic audit of
Sure.
church payroll.
Right.
It shouldn't be anywhere
There's
near
no
that.
payroll or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just kind of gonna see where we're at, where the county's at. Again, do we ask Benford if they can do these? Or do they do, you have to be special to do forensic audits. That's different than regular auditing, isn't it?
We can,
Forensic audit goes much deeper
Do we-
into significantly more information.
But I don't think just a regular accounting firm can do forensic audits, can they?
I think Benford, if they wanted to, could do a forensic audit. They did essentially interview for the sheriff's payroll forensic audit. So, and they came highly qualified too. So if they want to, I think they could do it. We could ask them first.
Just for the interest of time, I mean, if they can get it done, that saves us from having to bid it out.
So we had a motion and a second on the floor. Do we want to, do we need to amend to say that we recommend that the board ask Benford and Brown, since they're already doing an audit?
I'll make a motion on that audit, or on that amendment.
I'll second.
I'll take Martha's second. Any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Back to the now amended motion. I have been approached with the question, if the dive team was not properly established, are they subject to an audit? And I believe the answer, the now former dive team commander was a department head, a de facto department head. Even though they may not have been properly established, the department is a de facto, or was a de facto department. So I just wanted to handle that question before it comes up.
Well, there was no question county funds were involved, so that's,
At least partially taxpayer funded, yes.
yeah.
So I just wanted to answer that question because I know it's going to get asked. So any further discussion on the now amended motion? I'll wait until you're caught up. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 7, discussion and vote on recommendation to the full board to conduct forensic audit of health department due to $90,000 of grant money unaccounted for in the 2020 audit. And Julie, you had a communication that you wanted to.
Well, I just went through, so when I asked about this being on the agenda, I was referenced back to the, I think 2020 audit from Weston Company. And I went through the 125 pages, I wasn't gonna print it all out, but I didn't see anything specifically that addresses $90,000. And then so I called Steve, talked to Steve, he's on vacation, so then Melissa today got me some information. I just don't know where that number came, I mean, I'm sure it's not an arbitrary number, but I don't understand where that number came from.
You can see it where it says 300 and something thousand, and then it was 200 and whatever. There was a difference in that where they could not catch those funds.
So I'm looking at the audit as
Page 115.
115? No, I don't have 115. Do you have it? Is that what?
It's an email.
It was emailed.
Well, when I look here for the findings, it says sections 01, 02, 03, 04. So then when you go back, it says that, let's see, let's find 03. That in 2021, those findings were resolved. In the audit of 2021, those findings were resolved.
And you have that there?
Yeah.
I didn't see that in the other audit.
Could you read whatever?
Well, it says finding 20, the financial statement preparation. I'll just go to 03 because that has, I mean, they say it all, but it says internal control over grant reporting. Shelby County did not maintain a system of internal controls to identify grant expenditures for reporting on the CEFA and CIFER, did I say those grants? For the fiscal year 2020. Expenditures for 5 grants were not identified by management of the airport, county clerk, and sheriff's office. The finding was resolved for 2021. And that's from our, that's from the audit, summary schedule of the prior audit findings for the 2021 audit. So again, I'm not saying that an audit doesn't need to be done, I'm just wondering, does it need to be do we need to spend money for a forensic audit? And Melissa has been contacting, you know, because obviously $90,000, that's pretty significant. I don't want to say accusation, but amount of money. So they emailed our current auditing team of Benford, and I'll just read exactly what was said. Finding 2020-3 on page 110 of the 2020 audit report details 5 grants were not included in the schedule of federal awards and/or consolidated year-end financial reports provided to the auditor. The finding states that the preparation of the CEFA and CIFER lacked proper controls to ensure that the schedules were correct. It does not specifically state that funds were missing, so I'm not sure if there were any other issues related to this finding. Based on just the wording in the finding, I am not certain that a forensic audit is warranted unless there were additional issues noted subsequent to the issuance of the audit report. So again, if we want to do an audit, that's fine, but do we want to spend the money on a forensic audit? If our own current, the people that we're potentially asking to do the audit is saying a forensic audit isn't
However,
necessary.
everything after year was not properly maintained. And that there's a couple years, correct? So how do they know that it was directly maintained, not just wrote down on a piece of paper that it was correct?
Well, I would believe that when they did the 2020 audit, it was probably not a finding, or it would have been a continued finding.
But it shows that they did not keep, I don't have it in front of me, but it
Now, are
shows
you
that
talking
there's
about
not
for grants, or are
accurate.
you talking about for timekeeping?
Well, they are all in the same thing because the timekeeping, the grants pay for some of the timekeeping.
There's
So how is
a-
that money being used correctly?
There's the O2 Health Department salaries, wages, and charges to grants. That was part of the finding. But then again, that goes back and says, wages and salaries were charged to various state and federal pass-through grants. And I apologize, I don't, like some of these terms, I don't know what they mean, so I'm just basically reading. The allocation of salary and wage expenditures were supported by scheduling and assigning time of staff to those grant programs, which alone does not provide reasonable assurance that the charges were accurate, allowed, and properly allocated. That was the finding in 2020. So then, in the 2020 prior audit findings, in the 2021, sorry, for year ending August 31st, 21, the findings were resolved for 2021. So, as someone who has done findings and dealt with the state and different things like that for audits, and I'm assuming that when they say the finding was resolved for 2021, they corrected the finding from 20 and it wasn't found again in 2021. I could be wrong, I could be wrong on that, but
Okay, and also, I don't know if there was issues with payroll and people being on vacation where it says that they were working 8 to noon, 1 to 4, but they were on vacation.
yeah, and
So
I mean,
there's
that's
also
come up
that.
in different discussions with who keeps the accurate record for the county. I understand the health department keeps theirs for the grants. Who keeps it for the county? That's where, I mean, that's the problem. And I don't know if an audit's gonna solve that.
Well, the issue is, why is there also multiple sets of books?
Yeah,
Because that was said in a meeting. I keep 2 sets of books.
Yeah,
I am gonna admit, the visual I got when that presentation was made is I've got the red ledger that's the real one, and I've got the blue one that I show to the government. That's the visual that I got there.
I don't know if I go with that, but I do understand, we as a board, as a department, as a entity, need to decide how we can get an accurate reflection of attendance to the treasurer's office, who is the record keeper for the county.
Well, I think the time clock will fix that.
Right. However, the other issue that was said too, that I have been questioning is, the individual said that if we start doing timekeeping like we want, with electronic, IMRF is gonna go up, wages are gonna go up. That was said in a meeting. So why would they go up if you're working the exact same hours? Unless something's not making sense.
Okay, and that's fine. Is an audit gonna correct those problems? Is a forensic audit gonna correct those problems?
It
I
should,
think a
yes.
forensic audit is gonna let us know whether or not there are issues and what those issues are. Because right now, I mean, it's an issue of what are the issues. Can't fix something that you don't know exactly what.
So you don't think just a regular audit will
Regular audit
address
doesn't go
that?
deep enough to do that. I mean, Steve mentioned that his books are audited by the state, but again, I think those are just very high level.
Basic.
If he reports to the state, and I'm not saying he's doing anything nefarious, that's not where I'm going at all, this is just an example. If he reports to the state that X number of hours were worked on a project to be tied to a specific grant, I don't believe the state asks him to provide each and every timesheet in those documentations. And that's where a forensic audit would typically do that deeper dive.
Well, I just want to get it cleared up because according to the agenda, it looked like kind of we were auditing because of the missing $90,000. And I think that was rectified. I don't know if you think that or not, but I think if it had been a missing $90,000, it would have showed up in 21 also. So what we do going forward is something separate than the $90,000.
Yeah. Yeah, based on what you read, if we move forward, it should be based on something other than the $90,000. I will agree with that. I believe we had a motion and a second, didn't we?
So can we amend that? Or does that have to be addressed in another meeting?
I just don't want to admit, I mean, obviously this is a public meeting, that's fine, but I don't want to take it to the full board and say we're doing a forensic audit because we think there might be $90,000 in grant money unaccounted for. That's not fair to anybody at the health department.
Okay. I can agree with that. Do you think, do you want to do more research on this before we take?
Honestly,
something?
before we would go forward with it, I would like to table it until Steve is back. I mean, I feel like as a professional courtesy, if we're gonna look into someone's department, we need to talk to the department head.
Okay.
I mean, we don't have to, we're not obligated to, but I just think that that's a courtesy we should extend.
Thoughts?
I would disagree, but
I'm gonna make a motion, we table it till table it for now.
I will second the motion to table. And I will put it, well, if it, okay. All in favor of tabling, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion to table carries. And I will keep this on the agenda for November.
Steve is out of the office this whole week. I think he said he'd be back in on the 23rd, so I'll get with him then and just kind of discuss. I mean, Melissa was great to help me, and Steve has been texting me on vacation, so I feel bad, but I just think that we need more information before we decide which type of audit we need.
Okay, understandable. Okay, with that table, we'll move on to item 8, discussion and vote on edits or amendments to the Shelby County travel policy. I just got the email a little bit ago.
I would vote to table this one until the next meeting because
We just want to take
we
no
did
action.
just got a copy of, or no action.
Yeah,
We just got the copy of the policy and I know I need more time to review it.
yeah. Good with
So
that.
I would say no action and put it on the next agenda.
Okay, we'll just take no action, we'll move on to item number 9, and I will keep that on the November agenda as well. Item number 9, discussion and vote on the purchase of building for rescue, dive, coroner, EMA, with storage to replace rental building storage units for courthouse. And bear in mind, no matter what we do, this will also go before the finance and the budget committees. So do we have, I suppose we want a motion first.
I like that one.
Okay,
I'll second.
Julie will second. Okay, so I have,
I'm sorry, can you please tell me what the motion is exactly?
the motion is to make a recommendation. I guess the motion is to approve in this committee and send it to finance and budget. I have a series of questions. Have you been in the building?
Yes,
Okay. Someone toured it with you?
yes,
Okay. Is the building in good shape?
yes.
Okay. What makes it in good shape specifically?
Everything on the inside's new. The front foyer area is just remodeled. The large area, the storage area in the back is heated and cooled. It has one roll-up door in the back of the building that is big enough for
Anything we
whatever you want.
you say the large area in the back is heated and cooled. What about the office area up front?
Yes, that's also,
Okay, so the whole building's climate controlled.
yes.
Are there offices good place where you
There's-
make offices upstairs?
You could, yes.
Yeah.
So there's
Two
considerable flexibility
Yes.
for if we wanted to put rooms or offices or storage or something in there.
Yes,
with
there's
walls.
downstairs, there's a big area where you can use like towards like a meeting room. Then there's a storage behind that you could actually put offices in.
The current asking price of the building is what?
330.
330. And this would replace several other facilities that we're currently renting.
Yes,
The total cost of all those rents is
about 12,000 a year.
about $12,000 a year.
So it would take roughly 30 years to pay this off. However, if the money we spend now in rental,
So 230? 3.
yeah, it'd be about 30-ish years, give or take. But the money that we're paying now, we have books that we need to be kept that are getting destroyed by mold and everything else. I mean, it's not heated and cooled. You have people that go in there to do research. You have office workers that go in there to do research. That's not correct for them. We have multiple buildings, or a building and an office that we're renting from Shelby County Community Services. And I just think that being taxpayer money instead of wasting it on rent, and it's been brought up before about purchasing a building. Purchase a building, the taxpayers have something to see that their money is going to, and everything is at the county. The coroner has everything at home. Now it will be within where the county is at.
I think when purchasing a building was brought up before, the cost of
21, early 22, I think Austin was talking about consolidating all the different,
yeah,
where we have equipment here, equipment there,
the cost
storage.
of the cost of the building, I think, was $500,000.
It was upwards of 400,000.
It was over 4.
And there hadn't been any appraisal or anything like that done at that point. That was, I think, just an informational.
Any indication of any issues in the building, like as far as you know, the roof is in good
Yeah,
condition?
there is a 10-metal building.
Okay. How old is the
the-
building?
I don't have the information with me. It was sent to you guys in the pack. Do you have that?
Well, it said 1790, which I took to mean that's a
That's-
typo. And
Yeah,
it's probably
I would
1990.
assume that.
Yeah, because I'm like, that
they
building was not
had a
built in
metal shed
1790. So I can only make the assumption that
Right.
1990, but I don't know for sure.
The only thing that we would have to figure out would be ADA compliancy with the building and the second story level. It has to be accessible, I would imagine. I don't know, but you got to start somewhere. So this is where I figured we would start. And if it was good with 4 of us or whatever, then we start making steps.
And we're trying to do some legwork on the ADA compliance.
Okay.
I mean, just what would be required on
Okay.
that.
Good.
The other issue is with the mold, we're gonna have to remedy it regardless. And that's gonna involve something like ServPro to come in, take the books, do whatever they do and kill the mold, because you can go in there and look. And I don't know if I sent everybody on the board pictures, but you can see where the binding of these books has disintegrated because of the mold, and they are now taped together. So it does need to be climate controlled.
And doesn't Jessica have or the clerk have voting election equipment in a trailer somewhere?
That's in a storage building, yeah.
You were built 1700.
I think it said 1790 or something.
What I'm looking at says 1700.
Okay.
Either way.
I thought it was
I would say
1790.
it's nice.
I know it's not that
It's
old.
in pretty good shape for a 300-year-old building.
Yeah,
Does anybody know when that building went up? Because I don't remember.
I know she just put a lot of work into it,
Yeah.
Put new floor, I mean, didn't they fill in the
yeah, where the trampolines
pits,
and
where the
stuff
pits
were,
were?
yeah.
Okay. One more question. It does have a big door in the back. so you could get vehicles in there.
Mhm.
Is having one door ever a problem? Like if you needed to get multiple things out,
Yes.
You just open the door and.
open the door one at a time?
There
Yeah.
will be,
I mean, obviously, but I didn't want there to be an accident inside the building.
I mean, there's always gonna be a question whether when you're putting stuff away.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter. We have 3 big doors in Finley, and
You just have to park accordingly.
Yeah.
but now it has electric, and then there's always gonna be a manual way to raise it.
Okay. Always gonna be a manual way, okay. Any other questions on this?
Like the heating and air is like 2 years old. She just replaced a bunch of it.
How are the electrics?
That will be all having to look at later on.
I mean, I'm sure an inspection will have to be done before we.
Right, yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Any other questions? Which committee does this go to first, budget or finance, or does it
They can
matter?
just go both of them at the same time. It doesn't,
Okay,
everybody's gonna have to look through it, so.
yeah. Did anyone else go in, any other elected official or representative of the county go in with you?
Me and Bobby,
Okay, Bobby went in.
and
Okay.
the state.
I'm not going in because my allergies are on.
No, he meant the new building.
Oh, I thought you
Yeah,
meant the
no,
old one. I'm like,
no.
I ain't going in that building. I saw those pictures.
You know, the other consideration, my quick math shows 27 and a half years saving of the rent to pay for the building, but that doesn't account for the potential increase.
Yes.
Exactly, yes.
And when it's all said and done, you're not just throwing money to something that you have no ownership in. You have it becomes a county asset. You have ownership in it.
Just like the farm is an asset.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Any other questions, concerns? All right, we had a motion and a second. All in favor to send this on to budget and finance, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. With that, we'll move on to public comment. I appreciate everyone being here, and I appreciate you waiting patiently. Back in the back corner, go ahead.
Yeah, I urge you guys to contact the fire marshal's office. I know you said the ADA to make sure you're compliant, but being that you are looking, and I'm not opposed to this by no means, so don't anybody take this the wrong way, is this has been an ongoing request for many years of merging into its own building, and it fell on deaf ears. But that amount of the building, getting the compliance, because you're gonna merge in and it's gonna be occupied, and the occupied be, you got it listed as the dive team, the rescue squad, is it's not handicap compliant. So the bathrooms in that building are actually located upstairs. Doing that, the one door will not work. I mean, we've ran into that issue before my time up here, housing in an area that was one door and you gotta move equipment to get one in or out. It will not work. So being a county building, you guys know the wages. You guys are looking, you guys should have paid for that $500,000 one. Thank you.
I guess I'm somewhat ignorant of how the state's attorney office works. What exactly are you looking for in an audit? It's my understanding, if you get fined in court or something, you certainly don't pay it to the state's attorney.
Right.
What, are you looking for money? Are you looking for him buying an astronomical amount of ink pens, or what are you?
No,
looking for?
what it is it's a statutorily required action. There was a vacancy that existed when
Right.
when the now former state's attorney left, and the law, which I closed the window, but that I cited and read,
Right.
says whenever there's a vacancy, you're legally, statutorily required to perform an audit on the office.
But what are you looking for? If there's no money,
There's nothing in particular the law says that you have to go look for. It's just so that, one, if there's a problem, you know, you have a time frame and you know who may be responsible, because the department head's responsible for the office. Also, it gives the incoming department head a clean slate. They know from where they're starting. That's what it is. It's legally required. It's out of our hands. We honestly should have been on it a long time ago.
And there's no cash on hand per se, but it is using county funds, county resources to operate. And so that's what the audit, just to make sure that it's been in compliance. When the sheriff changed over, we had to do it with the sheriff's office. Any county, any department that receives county funds is obligated to undergo this
so
audit.
you're making sure no limousines were rented or, so, I mean.
Misuse of county, yeah,
Misuse.
misuse of county funds.
Something.
If people would be so kind as to introduce themselves,
I'm Paula Kensman.
thank you.
What was the last name? I'm sorry, Paula?
Kensman.
Thank you.
Jeremy, so I'm Jake Cole, probably most of the people here know me. Who wrote this agenda, and are you saying that all these audits have to be done by law? You have to audit the dice team, you have to audit all these people? Is that what you're telling me?
To answer your first question, I assembled the agenda from input from the committee. So I typed it.
So you wrote the
We wrote
agenda?
it, yeah.
So you're the one that decided, the health department may owe us, may be short $90,000. That's a really serious issue, to act like someone is short $90,000.
Well, the
So
audit,
what do you think you're gonna get out of the dice team? What do you think you're gonna get out in the cost? How much is this gonna cost?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what the cost will be for your forensic audit?
we'll
I mean, are
find-
you gonna spend $200,000 and gain nothing? What are you gonna do?
We don't
Why-
have,
Instead
we
of
don't have
helping
a
the
choice.
dive team, why are you so dead set and all the rest of you dead, Julie isn't? Why are you all dead set against the dive team? I mean, what's wrong with these guys?
I don't think I've ever heard anybody on this committee or the board say that we're against.
No, they don't do, oh, no.
I've not heard these words come out of their mouths.
Can you prove they did one thing wrong in a court of law, or are you guys just blowing smoke?
The audits aren't about proving anything. The audits are about being in
No, I'm
compliance with
interested in
what.
him proving something that the dive team did wrong.
Okay,
That's what I'm interested in.
I saw that.
I'm interested in why you say we can't farm when we can. I'm interested in a lot of things about you, Jeremy.
I appreciate your interest.
Yeah, well, the problem is, you don't care what we think. You're just like your friends. You didn't want public comment at the beginning of the meeting because you didn't want to hear anything. You don't care what we think. Hamlin doesn't care what we think. Your friends the watchdogs don't care what we think. All they want to do is destroy the whole community with a bunch of soldiers. That's all they want to do. I guess that's what you want to do. If that's what you want to do, we can't stop you, I suppose. But when when you have a resolution and people vote for a resolution, it doesn't really mean anything. A resolution does not make a law. The law is over the resolution. You can have a resolution to decide not to farm the ground, but that doesn't mean we can't farm it. That doesn't create a law. There's already a law that says we can farm it. And you can't do anything about that law. It says we do not have to have a specific public purpose. That's the latest law. So why is someone saying we can't do it? You don't know. You can smile if you want to, but you don't know. You can't prove anything. No one in Shelby County has been proven of any misdemeanor, nothing wrong. Lots of accusations. Alan Spector did something wrong. All these people did something wrong. All these other counties are farming their farms. They don't have any problem. Don't you think, well, maybe we're just wanting to sell this farm because of Brad Halbrook? He's the one that started it 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, I've had it with all that. I mean, I've had it to the core. These people hating everybody. They don't want anything good to happen. We can't use our ARPA fund for anything good. We can't use some of our extra money for anything good. And don't anyone dare come in and ask for money for the ARPA team like the airport, because then the airport's worthless or a joke. We don't need them for anything. Anybody doesn't think we need the airport should go out and talk to them and see what they do and see how they're a purpose for the community. They're what we need. We need the airport, we need this dive team. The whole community wants the airport and a dive team. What are you harassing them for? Why do you want to get an audit for them? What do you think they did wrong? Do you think they stole tens of thousands of dollars? Is that what you think? Where are you going with this? I have no idea what you're up to. Do you guys in the dive team think he's helping you? Do you think you should be audited? Do you think so, Mark? Of course they don't want to be audited. So someone said, you know, my wife said she was receiving money from Shelby County for travel. She didn't receive a dime from them. She received her money from the United Council of Illinois. They sent out a check to Shelby County, but they will not pay her. It didn't cost Shelby County anything. I mean, this just goes on and on and on. Crazy. Why would anyone accuse her of something?
Jake, I will answer that because I am on the finance committee and nobody accused Carol of anything. Nobody
There's who
accused.
paid her.
I know that, I'm on the finance committee.
Okay.
We can hand that
I
back to
didn't
him,
mention
please.
your name. You did. I didn't mention your name today. You're the one that said you did.
Nobody in the legislative committee, finance committee, accused Carol of taking any money from the county. Nobody accused her of anything like that.
On the agenda, you were going to talk about travel. I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything.
That has nothing, the travel policy has nothing to do with Carol's trip up north and that entity reimbursing the mileage. The reason that the travel policy is being reviewed is because we continually have department heads and employees that are charging tips on restaurant receipts, which is not allowed.
Oh my God, that's going to break the whole county.
It's not statutorily allowed, Jake.
Oh my goodness, that'd be, what'd it be, $3, $5?
I'm done trying. That's why the travel policy's on the agenda, not because of Carol's travel up north and being. Excuse me?
They tabled it.
They tabled it?
Until the.
We took no action. We took no action. We didn't table that. We took no action whatsoever on that item.
I didn't hear anything. Anyway, I think I'm permitted to voice my opinion. And I want to thank Julie for trying to help the health department.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Chair in Canada. With these audits, are these supposed to be done like in July for the fiscal years, that kind of stuff? Because you pointed out that when Nicole left, that this audit should have been for the next state's attorney come in. Okay, it's been months, a year, how long since Nicole left? Okay, there's been months now that has transpired. If anything comes out of these audits, is this going to go all back on her?
So the motion, I believe, was to conduct an audit on the 26-month period in which she was in office.
Okay.
It doesn't go before and it doesn't go after. And the reason for that is because the audit is triggered by the occurrence of a vacancy.
Okay. So that's what I'm saying. You audit those 26 months now and you find out she walked off with a box of paper clips. Are you going to go after her for it?
I'm not going after anybody for a box of paper clips.
You see what I'm getting at,
Yes.
though? Because during that time, say what happens, she had a copy machine, it crapped out, and they canned it and put in a new one.
There would be nothing wrong with that.
Well, that's why I'm asking, what are these audits going to show? What are you going to do with the information that you're obtaining?
Well, I don't know what it's gonna show. On that audit, on all the audits that we approved to recommend to the board tonight, we did so because they're required by statute.
I don't have any problem with that. I'm just saying, what are you going to do with that information once you get it?
Probably would depend on what they reflect, but all these audits are public record. So once they're conducted and completed, they're available to the public.
If the audit shows no misuse of county funds or property, then there is.
That's fine,
then
but
there is
what
no
happens
problem.
if something comes out, like I said, she got rid of a copying machine and now a new one has been purchased and that kind of stuff.
What do you
That's
do
not
with
misuse
them?
of, that's not misuse of.
That's not misuse. If there was misuse, then it would go to, I suppose it would go to the state's attorney for.
We don't want to imply that there was any.
No,
kind of
and I'm not, I'm just
criticism.
asking, what are you going to do with this information? It's good to have it, but so what are you
It
going to
just
do with
depends
it?
on
It
what the
totally
findings
depends on what the
are.
findings
Know
are.
what the
How
information
much does it
is.
gotta cost?
It doesn't matter, we have to do it. It's a legal obligation to do it.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, go
I
ahead.
got one more thing, I'm sorry. As far as the health department, I was at that meeting when Steve was upset with some of the questions. Doesn't the health department holds its own board, correct? And I'm not insinuating anything, but why wouldn't you guys confront their board before you put an agenda item on? That's a pretty stout one, like Julie said, it's kind of catchy. A lot of us that have kids utilize the health department a hell of a lot. So I don't want to say accusation because there's enough of twisted shit around here, it's a pretty stout way of insinuating something that Steve said that 90%, I'm not even going to percentage, but a lot of his funds come from state grants. I don't think the county can absorb that and hold that health department here if he loses those grants. And he stated in there too, if I remember right, that he does get audited, so why wouldn't you guys team up with his board to resolve this versus making something pretty stout like that?
Well, I think part of
And the terminology, that's, I apologize.
No, that's fine. I think part of the resolution to that agenda item was better communication with that department going forward, and that's why we did not address that item tonight.
So is his funding from grants more than what the county?
I would have to take a look at the budget, but based on what Steve said, it
I'm
seems
sure
like it probably is.
So it's just the oversight is what you guys are wanting to take control of? As far as doing an additional audit that he's already getting audits on, I'm sure he's got to pay for those audits, correct?
What's that?
His audits that he gets done,
No, he
Through
wouldn't
his
pay for them.
department?
This, I'm sure the state or the issuing, whoever issues the grant, the state or federal will probably, that's probably what.
because he said he gets audited every year, I believe it was.
Mhm.
Well,
So,
and-
so is he paying for that out of his budget?
No.
Or the state?
That's done as part of oversight for the grant money. So the state or the federal
Okay.
absorbs that.
So were you required to audit them?
The health
Say you're
department,
required to do all those audits, were you required to audit them?
the health department, I believe, was the only audit on the agenda that was not necessarily legally required. The others were.
I mean, if it's in our yearly audit, then we should have the ability to oversee.
I think we were required to audit them.
Yeah, yeah.
I got a comment. I'm a neighbor, I'm Darrell Best. And about this audit thing, you know, I'm just listening to stuff. Instead of hiring someone to go out and audit what somebody's already been doing every year or something, why not ask that person, where's this variance or what's the deal? Because she's been paid, that person, he, she, whatever, has been paid for doing audits for several years. You know, you can handle it anyway, but seems like that might be a good place to start.
So the statute says, in addition to any other audit required by this division, and division, that means division of the law, the statutory citation, the number that I read. So it is an additional audit. It's legally required to be in addition to any other audit
He's talking
required.
about the health department.
Oh,
Yes,
Oh,
That's where I was going with my
sorry
comment.
about
Okay,
that.
no, that's okay, I misunderstood, go ahead.
Yeah,
Why did we double
well,
down on something?
whatever I said, that's what I was talking about, was the health department. They're looking at that $90,000. Person who did those previous books might be a good person to talk to. They've done annual audits, right? And somebody got paid for doing that.
And that was Weston Company, that was the.
Weston Company did the 2020 audit, Whitfly did the 2021.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, it's all public, we have access to all of those.
So you're saying then that
we did the 20.
asking
Whitfly.
Weston Company,
Asking whoever worked with it.
WHIT.
No, WIP, that's all.
Like
Thank
I
you.
said, Jeremy, my terminology is, but I was like, why are we gonna pay for an audit? He hasn't left department, he gets audited every year, and I'm sure that your funds, our funds, is audited in his grant or whoever does it in the state as well. So
Yeah, it's
if
just
it's missing,
you
I
have
would go poke in the
communication
books instead of saying there's 90-some thousand, because that'll
Yes.
set a fire.
so Julie, if you're gonna kind of take the lead on this, I do think that's a good idea, finding those other audits, because I'm sure they're on file.
No, and Steve is more than willing to sit down with me anytime and discuss. So when he gets back from vacation, we'll get that handled and I'll bring it back to the committee next month to see what's going on.
Okay.
And I'm sure he'd probably speak if we asked him to.
So, while we're talking about the health department, a $90,000 agenda item, that's pretty serious.
Yeah.
Very serious. And I think Julie kind of dispelled that pretty quickly, but yet you guys got it in black and white. And Jeremy, you said that from Steve's presentation, what you took away from that meeting was that he's running 2 sets of books.
That's the
And that,
vision.
now wait a minute, you said he's running a red book for the state and a blue book, and that's implying that he's doing something under the table, is what it sounds like, where I said. I was at that meeting, I didn't hear that. I heard a guy who was professional, intelligent, and explained his system very well. And like Daryl said, go to the man, go to the people who are doing this, and let's talk about this before it becomes in black and white in the public, before it becomes a deal, before Julie's spending how many hours dealing with it.
Well, I just
People
want to
at the health
clarify, I didn't understand any of the
Have-
grant stuff. Melissa helped
Have
me
a
with it.
professional
so-
conversation with this man. I mean, he's professional and intelligent from what I saw, and he presented himself very well. And I did not take away from that meeting that he's running 2 sets of books or doing anything. But what you just said in this room a while ago, you implied, if you didn't say it, that he's running 2 sets of books. I didn't see that. I didn't hear that.
He's good, we don't want to lose him.
That's right.
The other thing I have, you're talking about purchasing a building. My thought is, as I said the other night, give the dive team their equipment, let the city run the dive team. If you want to purchase a building for the other entities, the rescue squad, the records, whatever, I'm not sure we need the tumbling building, but maybe a smaller building. But my thought is take that equipment that belongs to the dive team, give it to the dive team, let the city run the dive team, get out of the business, forget about it, and purchase a building that you need for the other departments.
So on those notes, real quick, you are correct that we should get in touch with Steve at the health department, and we should look at his other audits that he's had on his grant money and things like that. And I think that would have been the better approach than putting that high dollar figure on the agenda. I will agree with that. I will explain my other comment though too. In that presentation he made that evening in that full board meeting, he was trying to avoid having a time clock installed in his office.
Correct.
And one reason that was important was something that I believe, if I remember correctly, the treasurer stood up and said in that meeting, and that was nobody in that department for at least a 2-year period had taken any paid time off. Like no one took vacation or personal time or was ever ill. or anything like that. And that threw up a big red flag. And if I remember correctly, Steve said, we keep those records at the department. But
The
also
HR records, yes.
for payroll purposes, records come here to the treasurer's office for processing and then to the clerk for storage. And that made me think, if we've got some records, and they're all public records, but if we've got some of those public records in the clerk's office and they show this, but he's keeping the records that show those things at the department, then these records, it sounds like, are gonna show something different than these.
But he also said it's account balance.
So that's,
But he is, I mean, he is audited, he said he's audited annually. And yes, he keeps a book that probably an HR book that says this is vacation time, this is sick time. He does turn in hours that said this is what this person should be paid. Why somebody who's paying that time needs to differentiate between the two, I don't know, because he's a professional who's running his department who said this person should be paid 40 hours. Whether it's a vacation week or a work week, I don't know. He's kind of his own HR guy, what I took away from it. Is that
is he
correct?
his own HR guy?
No, it's only
Or is-
HR person, it's
Or
treasurer.
he has an HR person?
So I have kind of a comment on that. So you're okay with writing down that somebody was working for 40 hours when they were on vacation?
No.
That's what we're trying to figure out.
No, I think what he's turning in is this person should be paid for 40 hours. I don't know if he's turning in that they worked 40 hours, but yes,
Right.
Nancy Brown should be paid 40 hours. In his book, I'm sure that person's on vacation, paid sick leave, whatever it is. He's
Okay.
keeping somebody's keeping an HR book.
Look, I'm just saying, it may be over there, but then here it says they were here from 8 to noon, 1 to 5, or 1 to 4, or whatever.
Okay.
So if I say to you, I'm gonna go work on something and I don't, I mean, I'm not saying it's a lie, but that is not correct.
Correct. But do we have an HR director in this courthouse for every department in the county? I mean, do they keep records of every paid vacation day, vacation week,
Yeah.
et
It's up to
cetera?
the department head, but then it still has to be annotated across the hallway.
Right. And I think he turns that, and I think he turns in. I think he turns that in.
Cody, didn't he also say that some of his employees leave straight from their home to go to wherever assignment that they are, that they were unable to touch the time clock unless they drive to Shelbyville?
Well, the concern was too, sometimes on the weekends, they have inspections or different things that they have to do. It doesn't necessarily fall into a Monday, Friday, time sheet kind of thing. That was another concern of hers. That's what I'm saying, the problem needs to be solved internally, I feel like, between the health department and the treasurer or the board or whoever. That's where we need to start,
Yes.
there. And then, once we get
where I said you
conversations and
guys-
dialogue going, then, I'm sorry,
That's where I said you guys need to meet with their board.
And then- go from there, rather than just going,
Why don't you do the same thing with the dive team and everyone else?
because we don't have anybody to discuss anything with anymore.
Yes, ma'am.
Lisa Best. Now, is this $90,000 accusation that was on the agenda, is this going to be rectified in some way to where anybody who, this was all over Facebook, the agenda for the meeting. Now, everyone in town thinks that there's a $90,000 problem at the health department because of that being on the agenda. How's that going to be rectified?
That's gonna be rectified by streaming the meeting so that anyone can watch it. And Julie read out of the 2021 audit that the finding was resolved.
So are we gonna pay taxes on this building?
I just know that it was on there, on the agenda, that $90,000 was missing.
And now it's been read that the finding was resolved, and that's why we did not act on the agenda item at all. Yes, ma'am.
You know who I am, I'm Teresa Bain. I'm on the board, and I knew nothing about a building until I got home and opened my email after the county board meeting, when Jessica sent out an email to the members of the county board that Cody asked her to send, that they've been in that building out there prior to our meeting. I have been on the same committee that's been trying to replace and fix these windows in this courthouse for the last 4 to 5 years. And in 3 weeks' time, 3 members have been in a building and discussed among 4 more members that they're gonna recommend that we buy a $300,000 building. I don't understand how you guys can do these things like this. I don't. The windows still, we don't have any guarantee that we're gonna fix the windows. How can you decide in 3 weeks that you wanna move this forward? That's what I don't understand. I was part of the old board that tried to get somebody to get off dead center to buy the Fire Pro building. And it would have been a much better fit for everything that you've talked about. But I'm gonna tell you, there are department heads in this courthouse that weren't even in favor of moving their stuff into the Fire Pro building. So you can buy a $300,000 building, but you may not get anybody to move into it. That's just my concern, and I'm just one person
would
on
we
this
not?
board. Pardon me?
How would we not?
How would you not?
Yeah.
I can tell you that one department head said she was not moving her files or any of her equipment into that building if we bought it. And that's her files and her equipment. So you can't make somebody, Cody, do something if she is the department head.
Okay. We're giving them the ability to do this. We're
Okay.
getting rid of all the moldy buildings, and that $2,000 that they may be renting from would go right back into their budget that they don't have to spend.
I understand that.
And it's climate controlled. Now, I'm not sure who you're talking about, but I also had Jessica send out an email saying who wouldn't or would not want to move. And I got one response, and that was from the coroner. No one else seemed to have an issue.
I mean, I don't know. I don't see these, like I said, I didn't know anything about a building till after the meeting and stuff.
When you found out,
From
like everybody
Jessica for
else.
the email that she sent out 5 minutes before that meeting
Because I
started.
talked to her to send it out.
Yeah, yeah. But 3 weeks, Cody? 3 weeks, we're talking about buying a $300,000 building. In 5 years, we've been trying to get the windows fixed in the courthouse.
Okay, the windows are getting fixed now. It's already in the process, correct? That
Well,
company
I
is
haven't
going
seen
through there.
anything that's in concrete. Do you
Okay,
have
so-
something on the windows that I don't know about since
No,
I'm on
not yet.
public safety? Okay.
So now the next question is, why would you, so are you saying that you're okay with them owning that moldy building?
I didn't say that. I think that problems need to be fixed, need to be fixed in
Did I
this building.
send an email out like 2 weeks before with all the pictures of that moldy building saying that we need to rectify this?
I'm not arguing about that.
Yes, you are. You're sitting there saying within 3 weeks. Within 3
3 weeks, you're talking
within
about-
3 weeks, exactly, because when I found out that they were in that stuff with mold, that they were going in there and they were working on a moldy desk, I took it upon myself to help remedy this.
Cody, take it down a notch and don't tell me
Back
no.
up the dehumidifiers and stay where you are.
Dehumidifiers.
That's all you need.
I don't know
That's
if
not-
that would work.
Yeah, it worked in
The-
one place.
The stuff is gonna have to have treatment, the stuff in the building is gonna have to be
And what's
treated,
the
it's all covered in
It'll
mold.
have to be treated no matter what you do. When you put it up there, why don't you build a new building out here in the parking lot?
Okay. Just a couple thoughts, so just bear with me. So the first problem I see, first off, let me say this. I don't think the idea of putting some things together is bad. I agree with that. I think nobody in here would say that's a terrible idea. Let's not get them all, let's get them all in the same building. Let's not do that. It's always better to pay taxes on one building, to utilities on one building, whether you're buying one or buying a house or whatever. It's better to combine all your apples in one basket. The problem I see with the building out east, a couple things. There is no ability to add on if you ever needed to. The lot's very thin. It's hard to even get behind the building. So that's one issue. It's only half an acre. My yard's an acre. It's not very big. So that's an issue you gotta deal with. Number two, you're right there on the 4-lane highway. In an emergency, it's kind of hard to get out on that 4-lane and get in and out of there. Okay. Number three, you're talking about storing documents in a building with vehicles. When you do that, you subject yourself to worry about fire. Okay. That's never a good idea. So you gotta consider that. 4, it's beyond the railroad tracks. If I could suggest something, and I'm just, an idiot that grew up in Shelby County apparently, if you want to worry about storing documents, you need to store the documents close to the place where they need them, not out there. If somebody on the staff needs to go look for a document, they walk right out here across the street. We own this parking lot and the little bit of ground behind it. You could actually spend the money you're talking about using on this building to upgrade it, make it new, and do all this stuff. You're going to be over $1 million in. It's just how it is. Prevailing wage, you're going to be over $1 million in. Does that sound fair? So you got that. You got to work with the state about getting entrance and exits. You can't add on. You've got to worry about paper and a flammable environment, all that stuff. Why not just discuss openly, putting a storage building over here on either ground that the courthouse owns or ground that SCCS owns, because I think they own where the water tower is. Part of that may be city, I'm not really sure. But why not put a storage building there? I don't think you're required to have a bathroom. You're not required to have anything crazy over there. In fact, to be real honest with you, if you don't want to have a fire in a building with a bunch of papers, you don't have like a full-blown electric installed throughout. You do what you need for lighting when you go in, and that's it. You don't have to go through all these hoops. It can still be humidity controlled, still be climate controlled. 75 degrees, keep the humidity under 45, no mold. It'd be a much quicker thing for people to say, that's a great thing, because I can walk across the road and get to it, okay? The other thing is, we don't have a dime team right now. So the dive team and the coroner and all that, and the coroner does a majority of their business, as I understand, out of their vehicles. Is that fair? I mean, they work between the funeral homes, but when they get a call, they're wherever and they go. That's my understanding. So the coroner needing to have a place to park his truck isn't necessarily, to me, a big deal. Maybe an office to do some stuff in, which I don't think that's a problem. I don't think most people are going to argue with that. We have the EMA building over here that we have zoning and stuff in. Again, the materials that they need are in this building, or could be in this building, plus overflow old stuff in a properly built, let's decide on what we're going to build when it's affordable, and build it out here. Why are we running east of town for a building we can't add on to? And frankly, a pole barn is a pole barn is a pole barn. There is a purpose to it. And until you start really delving into when they built it, did they put the 6x6, did they use 6x6 posts? Typically they did back then. That building's at least 35 years old, by the way. It's at least 35 because I remember it. I used to go there. If you've got 6x6 posts and they set them in the dirt, they're rotten at the bottom, I guarantee you. And until you open the walls up, you don't realize that. So you get in there and you start going, we have to add a bathroom, we have to add an elevator, we got to put in a fireproof wall, we got to add another door, we can't get 2 trucks out in an emergency. It adds up to a lot of drama. Why not find a place out here to put our storage that might open up some space in the courthouse for the coroner to have an office space, per se. There's surely something where you can come and do some paperwork in and out. Probably doesn't care a lot. And just cut our losses on this dive team deal for a while, because right now we've got so much drama going on. I tell my children who are in their 20s, and I haven't had to bail anybody out of jail yet, I tell them, if your mama, your teacher, and your preacher, and your grandma can't hear what you're saying or doing, you probably ought to not to be doing it. When you guys are doing your little thing in the background, it creates raised eyebrows. And as an adult person in a professional environment, when you do that repeatedly, the raised eyebrows are not pointing to people that are properly following the law. This sending out emails to some people and then Teresa knows nothing about it. Last I knew, she's on the county board. She was elected to serve a purpose. You don't get to go past her. So you need to make sure when you're doing this stuff, it's not her finding out from somebody uptown. That's not fair, and it's also not professional. You need to check yourselves.
She got the email when the whole board got we all got the email about the building.
Because when you and I and Carol were sitting there, Carol asked if I knew about the building, and you asked if I knew about the building, and I said no, because I hadn't gotten the email yet. So you knew about it before the meeting.
Some people.
And that's the reason we have committees. There's things that go on the public health, the public safety committee. I'm not on that committee. I don't concern myself with it until that committee brings it to the full board. I'm not on the budget committee. I don't concern myself with what's going on with the budget committee until they bring it to the full board. A 22-member board, every single one of the 22 members cannot know everything at the exact same time. That's why we have committees. And it's up to the committees to do the business of the committee, and when they're prepared to send it to the full board, that's when the rest of the board finds out.
You can't say that.
And how come some people in the community knew about the purchase of that building on Tuesday when some of the board members didn't find out about it until Thursday? I found out 2 days before the county board meeting, and I called Chris myself and asked if that was true.
Because we're talking about.
2 days before some of you guys got the email.
We're talking about spending an
So somebody was
exorbitant.
talking.
Yeah, we're talking about spending an exorbitant amount of money on audits on the health department, and they get state and federal audits, I believe, yearly. He's correct. If it's already been done, just reference a previous audit. I do agree that your comment was inappropriate. You need to apologize to Steve publicly, because that's, you crossed the line there. And I mean, you might think it in your head, but some things, that puts thoughts in people's minds that they did something wrong. Could you be clear and say, I do not believe that Steve is cooking the books. I don't believe he has 2 sets of books.
I do not believe Steve is cooking the books.
But I mean, you guys are coming to a meeting and talking about attacking all these people. Most of these things don't need a forensic audit. You can shake your head all you want. I pay taxes around.
So nobody is
So
attacking
I didn't
anybody.
want a response to you. I didn't want your response. This is a public comment section. We don't need all this kickback. We all give a crap. We have a right to know about some of this stuff before it gets thrown on. We're going to buy a building Tuesday. When did that even come up? You have people come in and ask for ARPA funds to maintain government buildings. You're like, we're going to buy a building? Like, seriously?
I think for what Christine's trying to say, we need a choice. You guys act like this is your only choice. Don't we need a range of choices if we're gonna have a building?
This is just one option. This is just an option that came to the committee.
So how do you guys explore like Christine's option about putting something up over here that would be more
We can
accessible to, I mean, is that you guys that discuss that, or is that somebody else we should go discuss too and see if that's an option to quote that out?
8 years ago, they tried that. 2 EMA directors ago, drew it up, applied for a grant to go over by the water tower to
See, that'd
house
be
the dive team.
perfect.
8 years ago.
That'd be perfect if we could get
Can we
grant
build
money.
on property that we don't own?
They were,
They actually do own some of this property over here.
I mean,
They don't-
the water tower does, okay, we don't own the property on the water tower.
I think that's SCCS property.
So,
But again, a lot of times they donate that. What if we could get a grant to do something like that?
at that
That make
time,
more
at that
sense.
time, it was gonna be if you got the money to build the building.
Right?
You got shot down. Fell in.
I'd like to see us get options, I agree. I think options would be good. We need to discuss storage needs for the
Not
county.
against you on this, Cody. I
Yeah,
agree.
I'm
It
not
needs to
against
be done.
anybody.
I just
But
think
I wanna
money needs to be spent wisely.
Right.
I agree that options are good, and this was just one option. We can discuss other options. We can discuss 100 other options.
The
There's nothing
the
wrong
building
with that.
size is great, it's tall, it's dead air space. Nothing needs to be that big. You can build a 60 by 80 little house for probably a third. Now, you gotta finish it out, I get it, but.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, in the statute that you read about the audit, it said not later than 180 days. Correct. So why are you going around that statute? You want to follow every statute to the letter of the law, but you're not doing it on this one, why not?
Because we dropped the ball on it, yeah.
And so it's okay to go back to not follow the statute because you dropped the ball. Because you're not following the statute because you're doing it 180 days later.
No,
Correct?
it's not okay.
Huh?
It's not okay. We should have done this earlier.
We ran into the same problem with the sheriffs too, that was well over,
Yeah.
that was over probably, it was just a matter of getting it done.
Okay, and I've got a few other comments. Cody, at the last board meeting, I tried to email to have you call me, but you
Yeah, I
didn't.
was working this weekend.
That's fine. I said at your convenience. You made some comments about being able to go into public buildings because we're taxpayers. I can't come to the courthouse on a Saturday and come into the building.
Wait, do what now? I'm sorry, I'm not
When
following.
you were talking about the dive shed, and you were saying that you could go into the dive shed, anybody could go into the dive shed because we pay taxes and we're taxpayers. That was your comment, correct?
No. I don't think so.
I believe that
I
was
said
your comment.
trustee.
Now, Jeremy, I had that discussion with you, and I think you believe that was his comment too at the board meeting, because that's why I directly wanted to talk to Cody on the phone and not have him here. Because the comment was, that you made, was that you, and I think there were other people here that heard that comment. Did I hear it correctly? Because I'm pretty sure I did, because I watched it a second time. So your comment was that if you are a taxpayer, you could go into any county building because you're a taxpayer.
I don't think that said that.
I do remember it saying trustee.
Huh?
I do remember it saying trustee.
I thought it was taxpayer. Anybody?
I can go back and watch and
Yeah,
clarify.
I would like to, but if you said taxpayer, you would admit that that's not, I can't just come to the courthouse on a Saturday and walk right in because I'm a taxpayer, right?
No, yeah, as a taxpayer, you own the building, but you can't.
I can't come right in.
Exactly, yeah.
Correct. And so, and that goes for any county building. I can't just go into the fire shed because I'm a taxpayer. If it's closed and if you have to have a key to get in, and there's a keypad, then you have to, I would have to have access to a key to be able to get in, which I shouldn't be able to do just because I'm a taxpayer, correct?
I'm not sure where, I'm not following what you're getting to, so.
I'm just saying that any county building, just because I'm a taxpayer, does not give me access to that, the free reign to be able to go do what I want in that building anytime I want, correct?
Well, yeah, you don't, but.
Okay, that's all I'm asking. I want to go back and rewatch because I was pretty sure you said taxpayer, but I could have misheard. So that's what I wanted to talk to you on the phone about, because I wanted to clarify those comments and what you meant by those. So, which would save having to do that here. My other thing has to do with the audit on the health department. I do agree, and I'm glad that you said what you said, that you apologize for that, and about the agenda. I do agree with Ms. Best that there are people that are not going to see this meeting but did see that paper and are not going to realize that it's been clarified. I think you need to be very careful with your wording and saying things, because I mean that can be considered slander, I would think. And that's a character assassination. Now, you're a board member. I understand you're all going to say, well, we've had our character assassinated all day long and twice on Sunday. Difference. You're elected to your positions, and criticism is part of that. And, you know, I think it seems like you're targeting people by the way you're speaking, putting the health department, which there doesn't need to be an audit. We have an audit currently going on right now that's not finished, correct? So we're going to have an audit that's going to have some findings on it, right? Possibly. So why aren't we waiting to make this decision on the audit after we see what the state comes up with? Why are we doing this now?
We didn't.
Huh?
We didn't.
You didn't what?
We're not going to proceed, it's tabled.
We didn't pursue.
But I'm not talking just about the health department. I'm talking about all of the audits that you mentioned. Now, the statute, you already passed the statute on the state's attorney's office. So does anybody have an idea when the state audit is going to be completed?
We're not audited by the state.
When what?
We are not audited by the state. We hire an auditing firm
I
to do our
understand.
audits.
I'm
And
sorry.
that is entirely separate than what the statute requires. And yes, we are beyond the 180 days. But that doesn't mean if you don't do it within the 180 days that you're not still statutorily required to get it done. So getting it done late beats not getting it done
That's
at all.
not what I'm referencing right now. You currently have an audit going on for your year 2022, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And you've not received the findings of that audit yet, correct?
Correct.
Wouldn't it be smart to wait to see what the findings are of that audit? And I'm not talking about the statutory buildings, I'm talking about your health department that nobody's left, your sheriff's office, that you've had the same sheriff in there now for 2 years.
We're not
so you don't-
doing an audit on the sheriff's department.
But it was written that way on the agenda, correct?
No.
Was it an audit for the sheriff's department?
Is a finalized. Yeah, that was to finalize an audit that had findings, a previous
Okay.
audit that had findings.
Now, when I spoke to a board member, he said that he had material that he was going to turn over that they did not have when they did that audit. And so that's what led me to believe that it was going to be an audit. Because there were documents that were destroyed that he had. So,
No, we're just gonna try to try to close up and resolve that audit that was done in 20.
so you're not adding to that audit? You're not going to, because how he made it sound to me was he was going to turn those documents over so that they could be included in that.
Well, I think I know what you're referring to.
Yes.
Someone, and I don't remember exactly who it was, someone FOIA'd for a log-in, log-out record and received it. And then later, the forensic auditor asked the department for that exact same log-in, log-out record and was told it was destroyed, or it did not exist, or something to that effect. Then I FOIA'd for it and got it. And so, and also a FOIA for written permission to destroy that public record turned up nothing. So if it was destroyed, it appears that it was destroyed without legal permissions to do so. And if I got it after the auditor was told it didn't exist, was destroyed, whatever the exact verbiage was, then it appears that that statement to the auditor when he requested it was an incorrect statement.
So are you turning those over to the auditor to expand, to include that with the sheriff's audit?
I am not sure if my copy of that login, logout record can be turned over to the auditor, because when I got it, I was not his client. I was not a board member. Now I am now. I don't know if that makes my copy something that he can use, because I would now be his client, but I wasn't when I got it. So I don't know. So I probably wouldn't be the one to send that record to the auditor. But I do know that the auditor's audit is incomplete because he was not supplied with all the records that he needed and that he requested.
And that's what I'm getting at. Are you going to want it completed?
I think that'd be a good idea. That's just me.
Okay. And then I want to talk about the funds that you were auditing. You said the donations, the donation fund. How can you, if the county name's not on that account, how can you audit that? Wouldn't that have to be by court order? Because I don't think you could audit an account that's not county funded.
That may be, but they were at least partially funded by taxpayer money, and that portion could certainly be audited.
Just the portion, the donations cannot be if you have no attachment to the county without a court order, correct?
Yeah, I don't have the answer. I will say that since they were a de facto department of the county, any funds they have may be subject to audit, but I'm not sure. That's going to be a legal counsel question.
It would be, but they were never in the budget, correct? The only money that you could audit technically is the county budgeted money.
That could be.
And can you find an answer to that question for me, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's nice.
So the 2022 overall audit has not been received, has not been completed, is that right?
Not yet.
And so it is months overdue, would that be a true statement? It was due in April, even with the extension with the COVID situation, it was still due in April, would that be a true statement?
That may be, I'm not sure.
Okay. And you guys just sat here and voted to have that same firm do the audits, the same firm that is months behind on our 2022.
Yeah,
Is that a true statement? I mean, is it the same firm?
It is the same firm.
Okay. But yet they are months behind on our county's audit. Is that,
No,
from my understanding?
No, I don't think that's an accurate description of the circumstances. I think we have a couple of departments who have not cooperated very well with the auditor. And so the auditor, again, like I just said about the forensic audit on the sheriff's payroll, I think the auditor has not been supplied with the records they have requested.
So what kind of heat who puts the heat on those departments to get the information to this auditor then?
What's your reaction going to be if I start putting heat on a department of the county?
Yeah. Well,
what's the reaction then anytime?
Let's not mention any department.
I think that if a department, I don't know what department you're referring to, but if you have a department that's not complying with an audit, I mean, you have to I mean, you guys aren't bashful about throwing all kinds of stuff on the agendas and in board meetings. I think if that's a problem, and the problem why we're not getting our 2022 audit done, I think that needs to be addressed.
So,
No matter what department it is.
So if I come out and I say such and such a department isn't cooperating with the auditor, they're not turning over records, do we have another dive team? Do we have another farm? Do we have
You
another-
Well, I think you're apples and oranges. I think the community would support someone who said, we have a department that is not complying with an audit and we're going to do whatever we need to do. I think everybody in here wants to see transparency, wants to see honesty, wants to see things done the right way. And I think if somebody's not complying with those audits, I don't think there's anybody in here that would say, we need to find out and get this situated. I mean, my God, we're in October of 23 and we're still talking about last year's audit. I would think that needs to be addressed no matter who it is.
I do too, and I appreciate that support.
I don't know who it is, don't care, but you know, if you got somebody that's they're not doing their job, obviously, that they're not providing the information.
But they should be able to respond to why they're not.
Yeah.
If there's a legitimate reason as to why they're not, I hope that you're listening to what that legitimate reason is. And they've at least been asked what the legitimate reason is that they are not.
And why did we wait?
Yeah.
I think just to correct me if I'm wrong, 2-3 years ago, there's 2 of you in here at least was on our side of that wall that was requesting information, and that's what a lot of these people and myself have gotten involved in, asking questions. And now that, not just singling you, most of the board is on that side, it's turned into a Facebook keyboard war. A lot of it, they've asked questions. Some of them do come out snarky. Some of the responses come back snarky. But the minute you leave here, it turns into a keyboard warrior. And trust me, I'm one of the worst. Because
Facebook's never a good place to try to sort any of this stuff out.
And what it comes down to is, it's a little bit of what people hear. They get twisted up when they leave here, you know? It's just a little bit.
All right, anything else? Go ahead.
Jeremy, not attacking anybody, I just have a question for you regarding audits. The statute states that you are required to do an audit under these certain conditions when somebody leaves. It doesn't mention anything about what type of audit. From my understanding, there's at least 3 types of audits. There can be an internal audit that's just done by your treasurer or whoever that just looks at the books and says, don't see anything out of the ordinary here. I think that there's no issue. There could be a paid professional audit where you hire an auditing firm like you've done to do an audit when maybe it's a bigger department or they handle a lot of money or a lot of accounts or whatever. And then there's a forensic audit, which is obviously very expensive. And you would do that in a situation where you feel that there's serious legal concerns or an accusation or missing funds or whatever. It doesn't say in the statute that you have to do any of one of those 3, right? You just have to do something. So would it not make sense in some cases for the board to decide just an internal audit is appropriate here? In this case, a paid professional audit is appropriate, and in this case, a forensic audit is appropriate. Don't you have that power and authority to decide that?
That is a question I would want to run by legal counsel. I'm sure we could do an ordinary audit. We could probably also do a forensic audit. If an internal audit qualifies, then we could probably do that, but I would need to ask legal counsel because I don't know. But that's a good point. I'm just curious.
Who's your counsel? Is that Mr.
Mark, there was an accusation of that.
Yes.
I wasn't referring to any particular audit or any particular, I'm just saying, it looks like to me the statute just says an audit, and if it was required to be a certain level of audit, I think maybe the statute would probably designate that in there, so I'm thinking that they just say you have to audit when somebody leaves, and that you guys would have the authority to decide what level of audit is necessary or required.
I don't know that an internal audit in that situation, Mark, would, I'm gonna use the term pass muster of getting beyond somebody being able to accuse whomever's in the treasurer's department at the time, and whichever person vacated their office for whatever reason. I think you just open it up to, oh, well, they're good friends, or they do this or do
Am I
that,
not
where,
trusting the results of the audit?
and that could happen, whoever's in that department and whoever's the one that, retires,
Sure.
resigns,
I clearly
whatever.
understand that. I was
I
just,
think it needs to be an outside entity that performs that audit. Now, you're right, forensic or standard, yes, but I don't think doing an internal audit when it comes to taxpayer dollars being spent would pass muster. That's just my opinion, because I've never heard of an internal audit within the government body.
Any other before we adjourn?
To clarify on the theft accusation was made against board members, correct? It wasn't made against anyone else. That is what you're referring to as a theft allegation against board members.
Against a board member, yes.
So are you having the police look into that allegation too?
I have not, no.
Okay.
It depends on what the audit shows, I suppose. Any other public comment before we adjourn?
Okay, if you perform an audit because someone resigns, you're saying that's why you're doing it in the state's attorney. Do you do this after elections too? If someone loses an election, do you investigate?
On elected officials, yeah, like departments?
Yeah.
I would think that they do.
Yeah,
If we do, no, because we don't handle any money. We don't manage any money.
Yeah, it says after such official leaves office for any reason.
You was in Nicole, she didn't handle anything.
But she managed, and let's not personalize it for her. It's the state's attorney's office. There was county funds involved in the operation of that
Did
office.
she spend any of them? Did she
I'm
write a
not
check?
putting anything on her.
Did she decide what was gonna be spent?
Just to see if she I don't ever remember these audits before.
They say they have to do it.
It may not have been discussed, I don't know.
I wasn't involved.
Is that a new thing, Jeremy?
No, it's
So when it was,
No, it does say, it does say effective 1/1/20,
okay, so
So-
it might be a new thing, could be.
yeah.
I just need a little bit of help in that phase. Because
That's statute's 120.
That's what it says, effective 1/1/20, so if I'm reading that right, yeah.
So as any of those departments spend money, they have to fill out a claims report. That claims report goes through Jessica's office, and it gets paid for out of the treasurer's office.
Accounts payable does come out of Jessica's
Yes.
office, the treasurer does payroll.
Because when I was at the rescue squad and I purchased anything and got a bill, I had to fill out a claims report, drop it off at Jessica's office, and or if I take it right into the treasurer's office.
Clint, that's why there's an audit, because if you're doing what
No,
you're
no,
supposed, no, I know,
just
but what I'm
asking,
saying
arguing
is,
with you.
if you're doing what you're supposed to do, the answer to your question is yes.
But
But unfortunately, there are some people that don't do what they're supposed to do all the time. And I'm not saying we have anybody that hasn't. What I'm saying is, there are some people that don't do what they're supposed to do, and that is why these audits happen. I mean, nobody up in Dixon, Illinois didn't trust that woman up there that stole $53 million from the city. Everybody thought she was great and wonderful and nice and went to church and all these things. They thought she was a fantastic human being. And when they finally caught up with it all, she had stolen $53 million from the city of Dixon.
Good.
So we're not saying that anybody has done anything nefarious.
I'm asking a question.
Yeah, go ahead, ask your question.
So isn't that the way it's properly done? If we want to put it that way, properly done, it's got to be filtered through, right? So when you audit just a solo, say the dive team, does the treasurer's department get audited in that too?
Doesn't she have, I mean, isn't?
She's,
I mean, I'm not
and what I'm getting
accused
at,
of
and I'm just asking, is because that's the way we used to do it. I used to have to fill out claims, I'd get her an invoice, staple it to it, fill it out, write down a description of reasoning of spent, and then it would go through the
I would
office.
imagine with a forensic audit, it would extend to that.
That's what I'm asking.
So all these claims and everything that have been properly submitted will come from the clerk or the treasurer or whoever's office it pertains to. And that's who an auditor will go to for the record.
Because I can't speak on their behalf, but I can speak on what I used to have. Anytime the fundraiser money was, there's two line items. There's one, mine was just called maintenance and equipment. That was one line item. The second one was our fundraising account. Any money that we gained had to come in here to the account. So that's what I'm just curious on.
So the rescue account ran through,
Even your fundraising money came through,
See, the dive teams does not.
It used to.
Like I said, I'm only
It used
asking
to.
questions for knowledge on myself, because maybe one of these days I'll be in your guys' spot, right? So I'm just asking as a question. I don't understand how you can just go after one and not the other.
Okay.
As far as an audit, that was wrong from me.
Yeah,
Right, go after one.
This verbiage going after, yeah,
Yeah.
but thank you for that.
No, I'm just asking.
If that were the case, then the clerk in the treasurer's office would get audited all the time.
So where I'm going at is where, when you put out your bids for your audits or whatnot, when you take it all into one hole, instead of, okay, now they find something, now you gotta get an audit to go after
No,
the other accounts.
no, you
or
audit
whatever.
the department that has the vacancy in the department head.
Okay.
And the records will come from those offices, yeah.
Yeah,
The
I
reason
think
I
it's
asked
like
is
a
'cause
trail. Isn't an audit like a trail?
I was just a little bit confused there, because I didn't have an open checkbook to go out and write. So
Right.
that's why I was a little confused on why we're having an audit.
So when you do an audit, it's like you follow a trail. You start at one point and you follow it through. And I would imagine anybody that's involved in locating those funds it's not even, we're not even implying anything's missing or anything's wrong. It's just you have to find out. So there are gonna be other departments, I would imagine, involved in getting to the bottom of that, getting that clear. It's just so that when the next person takes place, or takes office, there's a clean slate. And we know from person to person that this was resolved, this was all tied up and wrapped up here, so when the new person starts, they don't have any of the previous person's, maybe that's a okay word, baggage, coming into them. So it's not, we're not looking to find anything, we're just making sure that.
I do, and I know what some of you are smirking, but I'm just asking a question like anybody else would, is I understand how the audits work.
Okay.
I didn't know that things have changed, that everybody had an open checkbook as far as everything was filtered through one office, to my knowledge.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody has an open checkbook.
No. Any others before we adjourn?
Nope.
Any other public comment? Last call for public comment. I just want to say I appreciate the respectful discussion that we've had this evening. Thank you to everyone. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Can I make a motion? And a second? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Hey, Melissa, Jeff, I'll see you getting so involved about that. I was here to sit here and the
I was just.
She got out of jail. Bailey makes it.
It's okay, she's like a pretty
In the box,
person.
in your box.
Whatever. I would rather she think they are, but she's just found a comfortable level, you know, it's a new generation.
Oh, yeah, they are.
So, and she's functional, it's not like, you know, she's
Right.
right.
Have you got, but,
So last night she called me panicked.
I agree.
I gotta get That's indicative of ate my toenail. I'm like, what do you mean? What is that? Well, I guess it's my dad's.
are you learning something?
I'm like, well, she's like, what do we do? I gotta take you to the emergency room. So the closest emergency bag is Springfield.
Right. So much better.
It's 11 o'clock at night.
Lobby ordinance, bet laugh.
You know.
I'm down Why was that?
So she called them and they're like, yeah, we just have to
It wasn't a leaky note. She's just like, all my is just zonked out. But it's hilarious. That's what she did. Okay, you need anything?
When will there be, do you have to have so many items on the agenda before you have another legislative?
Do I have a permission to turn this off?
Okay, so it's a monthly deal?
Yeah, we could call it.
I just figured you
I got
had enough business.
Julie, I'll shut it down.
Maybe I should let you.
I think 2 times before we've had a special meeting because something came up.
Okay,
like
first thing.
The dive team, and then I think
Can I just
there
hit power?
was another time that we had some